So I'm calling this meeting to order, Tuesday, March 8th, writing up, and we're a little bit behind due to weather and traffic, but thank you all for attending. And we'll start with public session, and I believe we have someone from the public here. Is that correct? Are you?
He's on the agenda.
On the agenda, that's for the, okay, great. Well, do we have anybody online waiting for us from the public?
Not at this time.
Not at this time, okay. We will keep that open if you let us know, and we'll go ahead and move forward with the February minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look at the February minutes? Anybody have any recommendations or changes?
I was not here for that meeting, so.
Oh, that's right, you weren't.
Yeah.
So, and you weren't here either. Anybody have changes? I looked them over earlier today, but yeah. Look.
I guess the only thing I was questioning was G, was who those 7 people
It's
really
funny,
were.
I did wonder that too, but then I thought, well, maybe we didn't put that in there. Did we get clarification on G about, one of the questions we had at the last meeting is who these people are on the commission, who fits what role? Because I think when I joined, I was brought in as the business owner, as an in-town business owner.
I do not have an answer for that yet. I was working on getting it yesterday. The clerk has been out due to medical issues.
Okay.
So I'll work on getting that answer and sending it email
Okay.
about which is
All right, and I guess, I didn't see in here anything about the, we kind of discussed new applications and all, so I guess we can bring that up under new business, but any other changes to this? Should we accept them as,
With the question on Part G, number 1, or,
adding names?
yeah,
Adding names of positions, so.
yeah.
If you could update that, or whoever, and then have them resent to us, that would be great. All right. Well, now we will move into our regularly scheduled meeting, starting with reports. And so the first thing on the meeting is the introduction of Allison Gant. Is that how you say your last name?
That is correct.
Okay. So Allison, I'm going to let you take it from here. So you're new to all of us, and we
Yes.
appreciate you being here. So.
Yes, thank you all so much. Like she said, my name is Allie Gant, and I am the city's new Assistant City Administrator and your new staff liaison. Prior to starting with the city, I was the town administrator for the town of Packlet in Spartanburg County, a small town there. Moved here, and the decision for me to become the PAC staff liaison was made in an effort to improve the communication between city staff and the commission. Joan was named the commission's liaison due to her position at the Arts Center, but Joan came from the background of nonprofit, which is much different than municipal government. And as the assistant city administrator, I have the authority to direct department heads. I attend all city council meetings, and I'm actively involved in all aspects of the city, as is public art. So the idea came from, it just makes logical sense for me to serve, and I look forward to bringing you all a holistic approach of what you all are trying to do and how the city can play a part in helping you get to your goals.
That's great. We appreciate that.
Absolutely. So then we can move on to the review of the art proposal communication plan. And it will kind of stay the same. So step 1, if the proposal is submitted, it will go to Joan to check off to make sure it has the necessary components before it gets sent over to me. That includes the budget, the timeline, funding information, the location, and just general logistics of the proposal. And then once it comes to me, I will present it to you all like we'll have tonight. Then upon your all's approval, I would then take it to the department heads to make sure that there's no engineering problems it's not too close to a tree, make sure all the boxes are checked. And then from there, as long as there's no dramatic changes that affects the project, it would then be presented to City Council by the chair. And then upon approval, the artist would then move forward with the proposal.
I have a question, a couple questions
Okay.
actually. So this to me is like an artist comes to the city with an idea. What is the process if we have, like, we want to put out the RFP because we have a project we would like to see happen, and it gets initiated from the commission, not from an artist approaching the city. Could you?
So this would
Talk
just
about
be
that.
for public art. If it was anything on private land, then the board's or the commission's role would be to approve the content of to make sure there was no obscenities or offensive on the art.
Okay, I guess maybe I'll reword the question
Yeah.
differently. There are some public art projects that we have on our public art plan.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't originate from an artist coming to the city to say, I would like to do this, like what's on the agenda today. They started here and they're in our plan, and we want to put out, like, say, an RFP for proposals for, let's just say, Gateway Park, for example. What does the process look like when it's generated from the commission?
I think before we make the RFP or in the process of making the RFP, we can get with the department. I can get with the department heads beforehand to see what our limitations are, if any, and we can incorporate that into the RFP description of what we're looking for in the project. Because we don't want to put out an RFP that we can't do.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I guess it would be helpful, I think, and it would clear up any confusion if there was a parallel process
Yeah. Okay.
that spelled out the steps like that.
We actually mentioned it in the meeting last month.
Okay.
I don't think it's reflected in the meeting minutes and all, but we did talk about, basically having the same type thing, but for the in-house or in-committee, in commission, I guess.
Yeah, like certain things,
where
we have like the plan the commission has come up with that we have presented to the city council. And like those are places that we would like for the city to say, like, if an artist comes and says, I want to do something in X location, they would say, well, the commission has been approved to do a project there. Is there a different location that you would like to do your project? And then artists who come to the city, right, to say, I have this great idea that I want to do on city property, then I see the proposal or the process works that way. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do a parallel of the
Process.
in-house of what it would be that the department heads, you all would kind of say, here's what we were looking to do. I would take it to the department heads and see, what are we allowed to do. Then we'll make sure we have that in the RFP description of the project, what is not allowed, what is allowed, and then the RFP would go out.
On step number 3, where we talk about the proposal going to public arts, I know you'd mentioned, us reviewing it for things like inappropriateness and obscenities and things like that. I also think that one of the purposes of us being here is to also provide any recommendations. Now, they don't have to follow those recommendations. Obviously, it's their it's their private property. But I think for the record, and I think it should be in here that we also, one of our purposes for those kinds of projects is to also provide recommendations.
Do you want that I think that would be a third one of private.
I concur.
So
Right.
we would have one for public,
Right.
for art on public property, art on private property, and then in-house.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I think in the discussion last month, we kind of wondered, like, we're not exactly the ethics commission here, so I don't know that the question of ethics or morality needs to come to us. I feel like that's the city that needs to decide that.
Yeah.
because everybody looks at art differently, and I don't think I would like to be.
I think it's just a
challenge.
recommendation to the council of, as a body,
Right.
this is our opinion on it.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
and
the
then
council would make the ultimate decision.
Yeah, and then somehow it would be in the record that whatever our comments would be about the, you know, our record, or our recommendations would be in the record.
Yeah.
The ultimate is just advising them of, we feel that it may be offensive, or we think it looks fine.
Yeah, like last time, for example, we were presented with, a place downtown
Charleston.
that had, and, they used, some pictures that actually looked like stuff that was used somewhere else. And then they were gonna, and we brought up the question of, ooh, can you do that? Are you infringing on copyright laws? Now, of course, they have to make that decision ultimately, but that's where we become useful, because then we're giving them, you know, information that can help them as a service to not make mistakes that they may have to ultimately fix.
And also just to give our 2 cents if they want it. I mean, they don't have to
Yeah.
take it, but I think, because in this case, they're up, they're there now, and I cringed when I saw it. Because I think it's almost too much for that small a space. I still wonder about the copyright infringement, because it does look like stickers that were applied or something. So I think it could have been better had we had an opportunity to speak.
Yeah.
Put it in the
owner
record,
and-
yeah.
Yeah, and
Maybe suggest an artist that,
Yeah.
that has come to us before and say, this artist could do something for
Yeah.
you in that space if you,
Well, if we
if you
take it further, I don't know.
That's all part of that recommendation. That's where we add the value. Yeah.
So,
And I have one question, being new to the commission, is there a budget established by the city?
So each year, council in our operating budget allots an amount of money that goes to the Arts Commission for projects. I believe it's $40,000
Okay, all right,
annually.
Yeah.
all right, thanks.
And that actually makes me think we need to introduce Bobby, or have Bobby introduce himself, because he is a new commissioner. So, Bobby?
Hey, yes, I'm Bob Wharton, and I am currently serving on the Friends of the Arts Center, so I am their representative to the commission. I'm currently their chairman, so been in Clemson a long time, so. And like I told you, I'm better known as Sue's husband.
All right, thank you. Okay, good. Well, let's see. So is there any other discussion on the proposal process? So will you bring that back to us next month with the 3 different parts then?
Yeah.
Okay. But for the
And
most
this
part,
is really
how
just an
we'll-
in-house too, so.
Exactly, in-house tool.
Yeah, our public proposal is more policy for us, so our staff knows what their role is as well. So they know that we're gonna have a checkoff sheet that I'll send around that they have to sign to say, I've looked at it, I'm okay with it. And I think, in my opinion, that protects you all as well, so that when it gets to council, someone can't come back and say, well, actually there's a water element, you know. I think it protects everybody, because I'm gonna have all departments, even some that may think they have no involvement, sign off on it, just to make sure that all of our X's and O's are.
Nobody can say they
Yeah.
don't know.
And feel free to like bring it like over email to us, so like we can just go ahead and vote on it with the next meeting.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
everything's like ready to go.
Yeah.
I have one other question, I guess. The proposal, from when it's an artist coming to the city, would come with what the artist wants to do, and we see what the artist's proposal looks like. But then after we've approved it, then it goes to the city department heads, and I guess I'm just wondering, like, what if it doesn't look like what we approved? We might have a different perspective. So I guess I'm wondering
If
there-
anything was to change, it would come back to you.
I guess I think that would be good to articulate in
Yes.
there too, if there were substantive changes or things that the artist wanted to do, but the city said, no, that can't happen. Like, I think we would want to know about that if there were substantive changes, because we would either, the possibility exists we might not support it anymore, or we'd want to advocate for the artist and ask more questions of the city staff, like why can't what the artist wants to do happen?
Right.
And get more explanation, I guess, about that.
Yes.
And I have that in part 6. If at any point the proposal changes significantly, it must begin the approval process again.
Okay.
And if a department, if there's a reason why a problem with it, that department head would give me the answer, and I will present you with that, with the reasoning behind. I'll make sure we have a reasoning. They can't just say no.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions regarding that? Okay, so moving on to the next, we have, is it Jaquil Durham? Jaquel, sorry for that. He's got the mural proposal that was sent out to us. Did y'all all get to look at that copy? I've printed it out if anybody needs to take a quick look at it, but I will invite you to come tell us more about it if you don't mind. Thank you for being with us this evening.
Likewise, thank y'all. So I'm Jaquel Durham. I'm born and raised here in Clemson, South Carolina, graduate of all grade schools here. Later went to graduate from Winston-Salem State University and moved to DC. Got my first master's from George Washington University. Got my second master's from Georgetown, and recently was admitted into Clemson University to get my doctorates and work with Dr. Thomas on a Call My Name project. In between all of that, I've always came back to Clemson. I have my own nonprofit organization for the local community where this year we've given well over 200 Thanksgiving meals to the Clemson community. This year would be 10 years. And so, and kind of one of the focus of my nonprofit organization is that we focus on bringing acknowledgement to the African American history here in Clemson. Given myself growing up here, it wasn't until Dr. Thomas wrote the book called My Name Clemson where I actually became more knowledgeable of the African American history here at Clemson. And so one of the things that I've been doing is I wanted to bring more exposure, bring more light to that, which is what my dissertation would be, which would be focused on curating a documentary about the Black history and Black culture of Clemson and Clemson University. And one of those pieces start with being able to start with minor things, such as being able to propose that we put up a mural here in the city, visibly, where there's some sort of reference to Black history and Black culture, to the Black history and Black culture, to the history of Clemson, specifically Clemson University. And so I just proposed that, prioritizing the Student League for Black Identity picture, which was taken in 1969, 1970, right in front of the Calhoun Plantation House. I really love that piece. I've already identified an artist who is very well known, who's done a lot of art in Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., North Carolina, which he's a local of, as well as Atlanta, Georgia. And he's already agreed that he loved the idea, he loved the project. And so that's one of the things I wanted to start with doing, is being able to start with a mural. I reached out to Mayor Halfaker and Council Lady Alicia Smith. They love the idea, and since I'm going to be moving back home, I'm going to also be bringing more innovative ideas to bring more exposure, bring more awareness to Black history and Black culture here, which pretty much is my family. So yeah.
Good. So is this a rendering of a mural, or is this a copy of the picture that you were talking about, that you were referencing, that was photographed in?
Yeah, that is a reference of the picture. The artist did suggest and say that he would love to do the original versus the illustration piece. And so I do have rights to all those images. Some I did purchase as well. And so the particular piece that I was referring to with the students, with the Afros in front of the Calhoun Plantation House, is also from Clemson University Libraries and Special Collections, which I work closely with them to be able to also work on my dissertation project as well. So I'm very familiar with them there, and it's also one of the pictures, or archive images from on the cover of Dr. Thomas' book as well.
That's great. And my question is, have you thought about spaces you would like to see this? Has there been further discussion? And I appreciate the proposal that you put together. It's great. I read it earlier, and but just wondering how many folks you've talked to other than Professor Thomas or whatever, but and then ideas for location.
Yeah, so I've spoken with Joan about location. I'm open to being able to see what locations the city own and would be open to something like this. I'm not familiar. I've just really started seeing art around here. And so given that it's an actual piece that's connected to the university, I think somewhere close to the university would make sense to be able to, for a student to be able to see it. And so I think, I'm not sure what the city buildings they own downtown Clemson or anywhere near the university, but I think it would make sense to be there. My second image that I really love is the Little John Grill, which is now currently the Little John Community Center, where my grandmother used to work years ago. And actually with the Head Start, the Little John Community Center, but the Little John Grill is actually a second option of mine. I think that would make sense somewhere within the city. Obviously, I've also considered reaching out to Miss Adrienne Lewis about Miss Adrienne Gardner about possibly doing that on the Little John Community Center. Since she'd be open to that, I don't see that she wouldn't be if I asked her. But yeah, I think either piece. I think the piece connected to the university would make sense near the university, and the piece of the Little John Grill would make sense to be somewhere within the city, or if Ms. Adrienne is open to being able to have it done on the actual Little John Community Center, that be proposed. As well as I mentioned in my proposal, the artist did say that he's willing to discount the fee if he were able to do both pieces. So if there's something that we can consider, also being able to have a piece done in relation to the university and a piece done in relation to the city, that would be something to consider as well.
One question I had was what the size of the murals would be. I saw the square foot or the cost per square foot, but did you have any conversations with the artist about the approximate size of it, or would it depend on the surface that was available to paint, the size of that surface?
Yeah, it would depend on whatever piece that is, I guess, in relation to the image with the actual people standing. If it's somewhere near the university, I think it would just really depends on whatever building is offered. It depends on the size.
Has anybody talked to you at the university about, or made recommendations to you about who to talk to at the universities to do the one mural there? Pointing you in any direction?
No.
Okay.
But I think that's a good idea to maybe that's an option.
Yeah, because I mean, it would be great to see that at the university somewhere, and then the other one at Little John.
Yeah.
I love the work you brought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
These are great. I think what other questions do you have for us as far as just, I know the funding, and is that at $35 a square foot or $30 a square foot? Is that the discount if you were to do both?
Yes,
The
that's
30,
it.
and is that a price that is just good for like the next 6 months, or I mean, do we know how soon he would be available, or how quick this would need to happen?
Yeah, I actually told him that I was going to be proposing today, so he said he's ready. His response was that I'm ready whenever you are. Just let me know, and then we can get started. So,
Okay.
and he's very, like I said, he's very well known for a lot of work that he's done, specifically in like in Atlanta, Georgia area. And so I think him doing something like this and then giving the world social media, it will bring a lot of attention as well to Clemson University and the city of Clemson for him to do something like this.
Absolutely. Do you know, does he maintain his art, or do you know how that's taken, how it's been received in other cities as far as, you know, if there's been any issues with the flaking, or if people have tried to damage it, or depending, have you had any discussion with him about that?
No, I haven't. That's a question, but I think for most of the art that I've seen has been very well. He does a lot of work around music, so he does a lot of murals that reference a lot of like old school hip hop, current music artists. So he does a lot of murals that pretty much represents the music industry. So a lot of his art has been very well respected and not imaged at all, and it's still loved to this day in some of the cities that I've been to and that I've saw it.
What is his name?
So his artist name is Genks, Genks, and I should actually
Always see it in
put his email
I thought it
on
was-
his website or something.
Yeah.
Oh, it's on that, okay.
I have
I know,
a
I saw it.
procedural question, Ally, I guess, or financial question. And a budgetary. So, like, I think this is a fantastic idea.
Right.
And I know the commission also has a plan, like of some things that we want to do that we had presented to the council, I don't know, about 6 months ago. Do requests from community members for art in public places, does that come from the same bucket of money as ones that we generated? So if we would either have to defer some of the plans that we have made or projects that we wanted to work on to accommodate a request like this, because at the price that it would be, and just thinking that a mural, even that's 1,000 square feet, would be $35,000, then
Yeah.
we would have to defer our projects, or we'd have to say, please come back and present this proposal again next year, or add it to our list of proposals. But my understanding from Andy is that proposals that come from the community, if we were to say we want to support the projects that were on our plan, and so we're not voting in the affirmative on this, but we think it's a fantastic idea. Andy has said like this, that we can't say no to projects that come from the community because the city council gets to decide that. So we're just saying we want to support this and defer our plans, or we want to keep our plans and defer this, and the city council will make the decision on that.
So, for kind of like you said earlier, if it's coming from the private, the commission's role would be to identify the obscenity or any problems that it could have, and then you would make a recommendation to council of yes, we support this, or no, we don't, and then council would make the ultimate decision. But it's still coming out of the same pot of money.
But this is
But this
actually
isn't
gonna be.
private.
It's
This
not
isn't private,
yeah.
this is a public,
Yeah, this is.
The one to hand it over to public.
No, it's gonna be on, if it's on like someplace like Little John, it would
It's
be
public,
public.
city.
yeah.
It's-
Yeah.
So I guess
I think the next step really is just to identify a flag.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's really the next step, because we can't even talk about money and costs. Like, we can tell you that there was a public mural on public property that cost $5,000. So, but it's the square footage of that was $5,000. So, I mean, we can't say that this mural would be $35,000 if we don't know how big and where it's going.
Right. And the other part of it is too, we don't necessarily have to say, we're gonna support 100% of it. We could do a matching like challenge, or there's a whole bunch of ways we can look at this. And maybe that's the thing we would do, is come back to you and say, this is how many of the murals we would support, whether we do both or one, and this is how much money we're gonna, put towards it.
Okay.
Would that shut the project down, or do you feel like
No.
you could
No.
find funding if,
I can search for funding, or I would rather do one now, maybe one later, or something like that.
Okay.
I personally don't want to have to search for funding because I search for funding.
No one
to
does.
build. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I do a lot here in Clemson now, so I search for funding for that. So I just personally would rather try to get the city to fund something like this. Like I said, I've seen murals come up.
You're right.
So I think that if those can be done, then this can be prioritized as well. So
Yeah.
I would rather not have to search for funding to do it. And if it's something where we do one now and one later, that's an option. Or if we can do both, I would prefer that.
Right. But I mean, if we did like a 1-to-1 match or something like that, for every dollar you raise, we would give you 1 or 2 or whatever. You know.
Okay.
Meredith, I think you make a good point of like identifying some spaces that could be appropriate for it and then figuring out like the surface area and like approximately what the cost would be. I still think any mural would be a significant chunk of what's been allocated for the commission.
Well, I think it's all doable. We
Yes.
just don't know everything.
Right.
So, like you had mentioned, going to the community center with Little John Grill, you know, that being a potential space. Let's find out if the director is game for that. Let's figure out which wall,
Right.
and then let's figure out costs for that.
Exactly.
And then, like, I mean, this is definitely doable.
Yeah.
And then the next thing would be, is like, okay, what other buildings, because I'm thinking in my head, we did all of this planning, but there's not a lot of public building space. I mean, there's this area, there's the city of Clemson, but like downtown, it's
It's all private.
it's all private. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I'm thinking this is a own Clemson University building. How? I mean, that might be an option to have it somewhere on Clemson University. I work for the university. I can't think of anything offhand where it would go, but I mean that's potential too.
Right. Right.
I don't know if that's.
No, I actually love that idea. I just didn't think that it was even possible. So,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, so I actually love the idea to be able to use the image of the students somewhere on campus. And if any of you know who I need to reach out to or talk to, I'm open to doing that. But I think
Yeah.
that that's something that we can should definitely
I'll
consider.
talk.
Yeah.
We can connect.
Yeah.
We'll connect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think at least approaching the university with the one mural would be great, because I think it really applies more to the university. But either one or both of them, I think will also require some type of informational sign, so you know what it, so you really know what it is, the time period.
Well, you actually, so that was something I was going to bring up. So one of the things that I was going to propose is that we put a QR code. You can paint a QR code right beside the actual image, and when people scan it, it takes them directly to a site that gives information about the actual image. And I've already pretty much developed all of that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have a website and everything that actually gives details about, and there's more images like these, but these are just two that I proposed. And I actually have one of Harvey Gantt as well that I thought about doing, but we all know who Harvey Gantt is, so I wanted to bring information that is unknown.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I do have actual, proposed that to the artists that we can consider painting the QR code beside the image, and people can scan it, and it gives the details about the actual archive itself.
Yeah.
One thought that comes to mind to the point Meredith made about on campus. I believe in new construction at the university, there's percent for art that goes in those new buildings. And so like the biotech building has this beautiful wall, I don't know the term for it, but
It's sculpture because of
yeah, it's of
Installation.
cells and
Yeah.
seeds and different kind of organisms. And Daniel, or the new humanities building adjacent to Daniel Hall, I don't know what the public art for that building is but they have set aside money for new buildings to have some kind of art in them, and to me, like the humanities building and this project
Perfect.
go together really well.
Yeah.
And I think somebody in the planning office, like Barry Anderson or
I can-
somebody, Paul could connect you with
I can
like
connect you
who
with the
the,
project manager
Yeah.
for that building.
what the art project might be for that building, and I think that's another
'Cause that building is-
consideration, because students will be in that building and faculty and staff will be in that building
Yeah.
all the
And
time.
it's a good
Yeah.
location because it's right between the library and the Daniel Holland Strode.
Right,
It's a
right.
new construction right there, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe it's a walkway mural going in or on the side, I'm not sure, but we can connect you. I'm not sure if the art has been identified yet for that project, but every
Okay.
new construction on campus does have a percentage of money that's supposed to go to the art.
Okay.
Yeah.
But as far as the other one, that one we probably just need to, I think we've been giving you a little guidance, but we probably need to come back to you with a little more information on what's next. And then meanwhile, if you could go take a look at Little John and see, and have some recommendations in your own head where you think an appropriate place would be, then we can bring it all back together and have a
Yeah.
further discussion.
Yeah, and I can ask Ms. Adrian and see actually, because I'm like trying, because I know with the new building it's like more glass. The older building was like a lot of brick. So, but I think I really maybe 95% sure she would be open to it. But I think now with the new renovation, to kind of be trying to figure out where, now. So
Yeah.
Being devil's advocate here, my only question, kind of going back to what Bob said, is the identifiers of this. And I know this picture is just a draft, I guess, at this point, but I think it definitely needs a little bit more detail to it, because someone driving by on 93, seeing that there's no connection until you park and look at the QR code. But if it was
Right.
large enough,
Almost more people in there.
yeah, I mean, something that would make it a little bit more obvious that it was the Little John Club. I didn't know it existed.
Yeah,
So
I
I
didn't
read your
either.
proposal. I had no idea, and I assumed it was where the Little John Community Center is, but I wasn't sure because it's like, oh, that could have been the ESO Club for all I know.
yeah,
Back in the day.
and that's something I can talk with the artists about
Yeah.
as well, as about being able to
Just to-
do that.
Yeah.
Make it not just look like a rendering of a building. So it has more of a message of evolution or
History and community.
history and of
Yeah.
back and forth or something. That would be my only suggestion if we can move forward on it. But I like that idea too. I think it's just again finding locations. We did do a inventory, or I think Meredith and Jennifer worked on the inventory of what buildings we actually have
Yeah, I
that
have
are
them here,
usable.
and
It's
there's just-
very limited as
there's
far as
not
the
any
mural
real space.
space. I mean, it really is becoming more of, for murals, it's more private property. I mean,
Now we can't.
I can think of
we can't
several,
go
yeah, we
ask
can't
the
go ask for
buildings,
private, but
the owners of
I
the
can think
buildings,
of
but
some
you
that would
could.
be great.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. But we can't pursue that. That doesn't mean that we can't
Right,
pursue it
right.
and bring it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, definitely. Well, I'll, I know. Well, I can start with Miss Adrian. I don't mind asking Miss Adrian if she would be open to a mural being put up on the building, and I guess if we can work collective with
Yeah.
the university process, I think that would be nice. I think that'll be if something that we can get done with the beginning of the fall. I mean, have it done before fall semester, before school start. That would be amazing, and have it being done over the summer.
Yeah.
We'll
And then
try to connect, and you do some work, we'll do some work.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll get this
Exactly.
going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if the commission wanted it on the next agenda, with Little John being a city-owned building, I'm happy to meet with him and Adrian, and then move it through the departments to make sure that all the boxes are checked before the next meeting.
That would
Perfect.
be fantastic.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. And I'm sending an email now of the project manager for the Daniel building that's under construction right now, and they could possibly lead you to other ideas as far as connecting it. The University.
Placement.
Because that's
Yeah.
the project management people are the people that you're gonna have to start with, so
Okay.
I will send you that
You
information.
know that building between Daniel and the library, that new building that's going up by the Academic Success Center off of, if you go down, you know where the Hendricks Center is?
Right, correct.
If you go down McMillan Road towards the library, there is a brand new humanities building going up adjacent to Daniel and Strode buildings that
Okay.
I think would be the perfect place for a mural
Every
with the students
every
that,
student has to take English. Every student will be going into that
You
building.
know, tell me, I have to teach it
Which is
in the fall
perfect.
semester, so.
Yeah, it's great exposure. Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, definitely. Is it near, I guess that's near Redfern, right past Redfern?
if you go, yes.
On
if-
past.
You gotta keep going
Keep
down
going.
past, like,
Toward the
Hendricks is
library.
on your right, Redfern's on your left, keep going down McMillan Road
Okay.
towards the library.
It's
And you know where the
adjacent.
library used to have that little side parking lot?
Right, right.
Okay, well, they only have a little bit
Oh,
now
okay.
because there's a new
There's a
building
big
there.
building going
That
there,
parking lot's
and
even smaller.
Oh, great, just what they need, less parking.
Because there's a brand new building.
I think that is the perfect
Yeah.
place on campus for a mural, and there's public art going into all brand new buildings on
Okay.
Clemson University's campus.
Okay, well, definitely. Well, I look forward to the email, and I'll reach out tomorrow once I figure out when I need to talk to this.
And then for your, just so you know, the university is not considered part of the city, so you would not need the board's approval or city council's approval. If
Yeah.
the university says you can do it, then you would work directly with the university.
Exactly.
That's
And
a-
they
that's-
have their own board at the university. It's called Atelier Insight. It's a public art process, and so they can kind of guide that process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds even harder to get approved, but.
Which is probably a little more realistic too, and splitting it up and getting two different resources to pay for these 2 murals.
Okay, all right, well, that's it for me.
Thank you for coming, and this is such a great idea.
Likewise,
Yeah.
Thank y'all, definitely.
Well, thank you for coming
Thank you.
forth.
Yeah, that's great. Appreciate it. You have a good evening. And then next, we move on to our public art plan priorities. So, Meredith, if you want to start with the trash cans, that would be great.
I can tell you that I've had 2 very large illnesses in the family that resulted in death. The last funeral was this past week.
Oh my gosh.
So I am going to be back on track with trash cans. It's just been everything to just do normal
for the
life.
day. Yeah.
So,
Sure.
I can just give you a brief overview. We met in November to just go over where the trash cans could potentially be, and then out of that, we talked about adding, I'm not going to call them cell towers, what am I going to call them?
And I actually have pictures of all this. So I do have more information on the trash cans and then of the cell towers as well. Let me.
So really the next step is to meet with Allie now.
Okay.
And we'll talk about. I had said, what are our resources? What are the companies that we need to go to actually look at those places where we can purchase trash cans that have art, ready to go on them. So that's really the next step, is to find out how much this costs.
So I do have bad news there.
Okay.
I met with, so the trash cans are actually purchased through Parks and Rec. All the trash cans are the metal with the bars. And in the Parks and Rec master plan in 2011, they are going to they started a uniform system where all trash cans look the same. But from that, they did tell me that the ones that have lids, I'm trying to figure out how to share my screen. The ones that have lids that are metal, like replacing, and they can have art on them. And then they also suggested if you want to do some kind of weaving in the, I don't know what you would call it, the design of the actual metal trash cans. But they purchased them all and have a replacement schedule to make them all uniform throughout the city that they've been working on since the master plan was done in 2012. I did talk with IT about doing the cell towers. I have a picture of it as well. And there is between 7 and 8 of them located throughout town. And there you would have free range on the bottom. So it would be this whole box,
Whole base.
the whole base.
Oh.
You can't do anything above the base.
Right.
Because then it gets technical.
Yeah.
But that can be wrapped with the exception of it would have to have one side comes off so they can work on it. It would have to be cut with slits so that they could open it and have the screws undone as well. But it could be wrapped and
Or painted on?
or painted on. And the city owns these and owns the lights. So although the trash cans downtown may not work, I believe this one would be a body wash.
Okay, so Parks and Rec is saying no trash cans. Okay. This is a cell tower that has some worse from wears. There's a lot of stickers. There's a lot of just vandalism that happens to it. Not unlike the trash cans that the round tops do get separated and stolen. So is there any suggestion for,
The tier.
yeah,
Not really. I wish there were. We're also trying to figure out better ways to clean up downtown and, but I know there's cameras throughout the area, but that's still not going to stop them from, unfortunately.
okay. Since it's gonna be a smaller project, this cell tower is, and I don't wanna call it that. What do I need to call it? You had a better name for it.
It's just like the cell
It's a
boxes. It's a cell box, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
is it a big?
There's another one by Catherine Smith Park. Not really necessarily something that you would see off the beaten path, but there is one there. Where are the other ones?
There's some on the lake side of 123, one on North Clemson. He named a list of 5. I can get you the list from him.
Okay.
But just various locations. They're not all together.
What about the garbage cans you said that could be?
It would
Do you have a
be
list of those too?
so it's as they replace them.
Okay.
So I know they're fixing to replace them in 12 Mile Park. I don't know where the other ones are that they're replacing. But he said he had ordered some of the lids, and it could just be, we already have the lids with the art on them, and when they replace them, they put them out. Kind of like the meters. They're already painted and ready to go.
And we are only interested in downtown. So that's where we'll focus on. Okay, so that cell tower, the Catherine Smith one, if there's another, a list would be wonderful.
Okay.
Would
I think there's a
we-
couple on 123.
Yeah. Would we be able to consider the electrical box, for lack of a better word, right next to the bus shelter?
I would have to check on the ownership of it.
That's probably Duke.
I think Duke would own the
That's
electrical
enough.
boxes. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just thinking,
I don't think.
I've been to,
Yeah.
I have pictures from visiting Boston, Massachusetts, Charleston, South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, pictures of boxes that have been, where art has been added to those.
And I know some municipalities do their own electric systems, and it might be something like that. Or they might have a lease agreement or easement with the power company that allows them to do that. We can explore that and see if it's possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's just that one because it's
Okay.
downtown. I'm not looking, if we're losing the trash cans, I'm just trying to think of, where we could gain some. And we've lost the, or not, didn't lose it, but, crosswalks aren't an
And is
option.
that definitely out? There's no discussion on that?
The
as far as
crosswalks. Yeah, I talked with Nathan with engineering, and let me see.
And I mean, after that being a no, I went and looked at the crosswalks. I mean, they are inset, not brick, but they are pavers, and there's a certain look there. So I guess I can understand why you wouldn't want to mess with something that's already looks nice. If there are places that don't have that have
Yeah, like-
is a crosswalk,
like
I think
section of the churches at Fort Hill and the Catholic
Exactly.
Church, St. Andrew, that's a busy intersection and they don't have brick
right.
crosswalks, but a lot of people cross there.
Right.
Or even down at Wigington and Shanklin and
There you go.
those,
Yeah.
there's a lot of places.
And I think it always goes back to what Jennifer says is we have to have a plan.
Right.
Like if we have
vision.
a vision and a plan to go back to,
Exactly.
so I think, reassessing the trash cans, they're not in the picture. We can have a plan for the cell towers, potentially the Duke power boxes, and then have some descriptive visuals for the city. I think that would be good, and like cost, how much it would cost.
And for that, I think Joe mentioned at the last meeting the questions that needed to be answered that Andy gave us. When is the project going to begin? What will be used as the medium? What does the commission want to accomplish with this project? Will the project be a solution to issues in this space? And how will art in this space make it better? And Andy has given me the directive that we have to get this to council before we can take any other items to it. So this has to be our first thing that we take to council.
Can you say the second to last one?
How will the project be a solution to issues in this space?
You're specifically asking for one first project.
For five, the top
The
five.
top five, okay. Yeah.
And would you be able to go back to Nathan's answer about the crosswalks?
It was a safety related. That's the answer he gave me. I know they have specs that they have to meet for the safety, and that's what he said.
People might get confused if they see a whole bunch of colors and say, oh, I might want to just go check that out in the middle of the street. I could foresee that being a safety issue. Like, I don't foresee that being like, I mean, that is something to consider.
It is.
Yeah.
A lot of municipalities do
Yeah.
murals on the crosswalks.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I know it. I mean, I've got pictures all over Spartanburg.
Yes,
and they're brilliant.
All
Yeah.
of them, they're
Um,
wonderful.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm seeing both sides. Like, I want it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But you can see.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so then next, I guess we need to go into what you were talking about and hone down on those exact things. So shall we just start with the first project we have, which on our list was trash cans. So, but where do we go with that? Meredith, what's your recommendation?
I would say next step, you and I get together on where are the cell towers. We'll make recommendations for that, and then we'll figure out what are the companies and what are the costs for the wraps.
Are we putting bus wraps in with the cell tower wraps as one?
No, they're separate.
They're separate.
Or something? And my understanding is the bus wraps are happening. Is that correct? I mean, they've pretty much kind of been approved, so we just have to put an RFP out for that if we choose to do that. Okay, so that's something that could happen.
I'm
And
ready
that
for
was-
that.
Well, that wasn't part of our plan
It's not,
initially.
right.
So that was not part of the proposal that you gave to the city. So I think we need to go back and say, all right, trash cans were, Gateway was, Shapeland was, like, stick to the plan.
Right, I agree.
Okay.
And be consistent about it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's gonna muddy.
And we're excited about getting to that, but like, we're sticking to the plan.
I think with the trash cans, that was a fast way to bring art to downtown. That was our reason for
Okay, yeah,
focusing
it's the
on
one
that.
year.
Right.
Mhm.
And so
And
now
so
that
was the
that has
crosswalk.
been off the plan, sort of, I was just trying to think that the bus wraps would be a way for us to get art fast downtown,
Right.
because it's already all in place.
Right.
And I have like 5 artists waiting on the art.
Right. It's a no-brainer almost, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's true. So, I mean, in our November meeting, it almost became like it wasn't about the trash cans anymore, it was about charrettes. And like this charrette has a bike rack, a trash can, and it already has some of the painted change machines. So it was like, oh, okay, so now we're looking at it as like a charrette, like a little place. And if you would like to entertain that, I can work with Ally to say, okay, and this area is a sail tower, a Duke power box, and a bus area. Like I'm thinking by the park near Catherine Smith. You know, all of that is going on. So the proposal could change from just being trash cans to like downtown, like
Area.
real quick places where we could
Yeah.
put art. If you would, I could put that together.
The only thing I will say is in our last meeting, that the bus stops, it would be probably more cost effective and easy to do
Right.
all at once. And then I think that's why we all kind of said, well, let's just do it. Because you can get it done all at once. And then because it's done all at once, it makes a big splash because you're going to see it in multiple places. And then maybe we should go back to your idea and start focusing on.
And that is a, as we kept saying, a low-hanging fruit, a quick win,
Right.
something the city clearly wants already because they had already started that project. So I think we could,
Well, what if we keep with the idea of, well, what can we do downtown? There's a bus stop.
there is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can start from where, I mean, we'll have that bus stop we know already covered, and then we can look at stuff around that area.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess for what we need to present to council for the questions, like when is the project going to begin? After our presentation, we would put out the RFP. What will be used as the median? That would be the bus shelter. What does the commission want to accomplish with the project? You know,
Public
Art.
public art, visibility.
That's always going to be the answer, public art.
What will the project be a solution to issues in this space?
Beautifying the space.
And how will art in this space make it better? That all kind of goes hand in hand.
Right.
do that.
It will eliminate graffiti, for example, inside the bus stops. Yeah. Using that as an example.
So would that be number 1, or would cell towers be number 1?
I think that could be number one because we don't know about cell towers completely yet, and we do have approval on the bus shelter. So I know we're hopping over, but at the same time, we haven't
It's
had
the
as
same
much.
program
Yeah.
though, right?
Right.
Like we were, like you just said, Meredith, if we were to go that route, we're swapping trash can wraps for bus shelter
Yeah.
wraps, and we
I
explained
think
why
we need to
we
present
made,
it like that.
Yeah.
why we made that move
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
because of what's been presented
Yeah.
to us, and because Joan P. has already successfully gotten the
One
bus
done.
shelter
There's
done.
an example
Yeah.
that they can visibly see and touch and feel if they like.
Yeah.
They can it's there.
Yeah, I just think it's an object swap.
Right. Yeah.
I think the bus shelters throughout the city limits, if you did that kind of program with the bus shelters, people would see that and notice that. I think the boxes, unless we had a critical mass of those downtown, they wouldn't be noticed as much as the bus shelters. Even though they're not all downtown. But it would be a program that people would see throughout the city limits, which I think.
Well, I am completely for my efforts going towards the bus shelters instead of the cell towers and the trash cans. If y'all would like me to take that, I would do that if I'm hearing that right.
And how many bus shelters are we talking?
12, I believe.
Yeah.
And I've got a map up there for you of all the bus shelters.
It's quite a bit.
Are we talking about doing all of them?
Yeah,
At the
because
same
the
time.
price was, it was a great deal. I mean, it was.
Okay.
I think
it
we
was
need to
really-
prioritize though, like how many we do
I think
and where.
Well, according to what Joan was saying, we could do it all for under $10,000.
I think it was gonna be a little bit more than that.
Or was it
No,
maybe
it was
11? It wasn't a lot. It wasn't a
Right.
lot. Yeah.
And the printing was gonna be they'd run them all at the same time. That's the
Okay.
thing. So we could get them, and the wrapping only takes.
And the company does the printing and the wrap.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's
Yeah.
we just have to provide the art. So
Yeah.
it'd be
So the
availability for
that would be
12
great
artists
to go ahead and knock
RFP
this
would
out.
be for,
Okay.
for the
I'm gonna do it.
art.
Okay.
For the actual designs for
Yeah.
that.
Let's do it.
Okay, we're knocking this out.
Yes.
Number one.
Yeah.
Number
Yeah.
two,
Yeah.
I would love to have Shakeland
Shakeland be the
Sam's
next one.
Done.
on there.
Yes.
I am sorry if I missed an email on it. I think there was a little bit of transition. I need the dimensions of that part. Did you?
Yeah.
I did. I sent you. So some things
I'm
have
so
changed.
sorry, I'm
It's
just-
okay.
I'm
So some things have changed with Shakeland Sam's.
Okay.
Last night, council voted to do an ADA not trail, ADA sidewalk through the park. Let me pull up this.
And the picnic
Perfect. And
table.
you'll know, but then maybe you'll know exactly where to put it then.
Yeah.
Better that than,
Didn't it go in
Yeah.
there?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
All right, I'm not good.
But see, that would be a great crosswalk right there between the two ADA
Right.
spots to do crosswalk.
what
Right
was
there.
what was that link titled?
For seeing this one,
Yeah.
that was, I think it said Shankland. Yeah, public arts, culture. Sorry. No, it was an email that came more recently, let's see.
Oh, okay.
So you can see on the picture.
Shankland Sam's Park on February 18th. February 18th was that email.
So the ADA sidewalk's going to come from the street and go to the trail side.
Was it from you?
It was.
It's from you.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, can you forward
Yeah,
that to me?
I sure can.
Okay.
And then engineering has told me that I don't know that it would
Well,
affect
actually, Jennifer, I think you
anything, but the concrete barrier that lines the back, we can't put anything on it. We can't, it's not stable enough to hold. I don't know if that would affect anything.
Where?
It's in this red, it's like a concrete barrier type.
Right, it wouldn't go on that.
Okay.
Yeah, it would go in the grassy area,
Okay.
the mosaic benches.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
But
that's
I
a
do need to
wall. That's
send-
It's like a
that's
retaining wall.
Yeah, so it'd be in
Yes.
front of the retaining wall. It would be,
Yeah.
it would be as if you had park
Self-sustaining.
benches
Yeah.
around that, but these would be concrete benches.
Yeah.
I have been talking with a local architect just to see if somebody locally could do this, but I also am going to send the dimensions of the park and the picture of the park to this artist in San Antonio
Yeah.
and see the draft that he could come up with, the 35,000, just the cost that we agreed on last meeting.
Right.
And it would be great as they're working on this if we can do it all
All
at the
together,
same
yeah.
time and kind of be not a grand opening, but
Yeah.
everything be done at the same time.
My,
When is that going to be done?
And then they're starting it in the next few weeks.
Well, it's good that you told us about that, because that's great, because,
And where's this located? I'm lost.
that is over at the end, you know where Wigington comes into North Clemson? If you're going through, coming through the neighborhood, going towards the Esso Club, and you come up to St. Andrews and go past St. Andrews and turn
Okay.
on Wigington and go all the way down to North Clemson.
Yeah.
It's that park
All
straight
that
ahead.
park's right there in the woods. It's wooded.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and there's now a nature trail in there that the
Okay.
Boy Scouts have just put in there,
Okay.
and it's very nice trail.
The end to the left is ending in the nature trail.
At the start of the trail, yeah. So that sidewalk they're proposing, Bob, up in the left corner is the start of the woodland trail that goes up through there. And it goes like all the way down, like North Clemson and Hillcrest. It kind of does all those woods right there. So they've done a good job. So just in looking at this, I'm just devil's advocate here because that's why I'm here. The Hillcrest crosswalk that's to be installed, wouldn't that be a great place for an art sidewalk? I mean, it's not a huge safety issue because that's not a huge traffic area, but wouldn't that be a fun punch right there? I mean, you've got the nice brick one going across the street
I
on
think-
North Clemson, but that,
I think the only way that they would even consider, after saying that it's a safety issue, is that we brought them a picture of what we were visualizing to show them that we can have safety and art. But until we can show a vision,
I don't
and
think it's
actually
city council that's saying it's a safety issue, it's Nathan saying it's a
So
safety
maybe
issue. Because I know our
we
mayor likes the idea of sidewalks.
in fact, I think he was the one who originally brought it up. Yeah.
Yes.
And then another thing
It's
on
not city council, it's Nathan's recommendation. That's what I'm saying, is there a chance that we could go back and say, this is really what we would like, so could we rise to the occasion and maybe try it out here? It's not
especially
a,
if the mayor's asking us for it.
yeah.
Well,
Well, he's not asking for it, but it's one of the things he
was an
talked
idea.
about. He liked the idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I think Andy even liked the idea at one point when we talked to him in a meeting. So, it's Nathan, the city person, that's saying it's a safety issue.
Okay.
So it's coming, okay.
Allie, what were you going to
Yeah.
say?
Yeah.
One thing that our horticulturist Tony mentioned to me about some of the parks, Franklin Sands being one, is that they were parks donated by families, and out of courtesy, any ideas we needed to run by the families because they donated it for a purpose or reason, just to make sure that it's
I wondered about
That's
that.
wise.
So we do have a way to communicate with the awesome.
Good.
Yeah, because of course we would want them to be a part of it and be there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's great. Thank
yeah,
you.
absolutely.
So then what are our next steps on this? Do we need to speak to the family first? I mean, I feel like that's almost like.
I think it's just keeping them in the know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would like to see what this artist could pass me back as just a draft.
Yes.
And then maybe we take that too, because that won't cost anything for me to get a proposal.
Right.
To him to draw up what he visualizes in the space, and then we can have something to show them.
Then you could show if we need to go to them out of courtesy, they can see the idea of what's going to
Right.
go.
Right,
Yeah.
I'll have something to show.
Yeah, I think it's it's a little premature now.
I'll make sure I have
And to answer our questions for the council, then, when is the project going to begin? It would be that working on a proposal, once a proposal has been received, meeting with the Shanklin Sands family to get their thoughts and ideas, and then move forward with an RFP.
I think, do you have to have an RFP if you've already,
I think you'd still have to put one out due to the size,
okay,
the size of the project. Then it's your discretion to see what bids come
Yep.
in and
Okay.
select to
Okay.
recommend to council.
In the plan, it says we can do a commission
Commission.
though. If
Okay.
that was a
I was
public
gonna
art
say, I
plan,
think
it
we're
does
allowed to do a commission.
allow
Yeah.
for
Commission
commissions.
to do,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm so glad we.
I would-
Right, and I
Yeah.
think that would be
I
city
would
council.
be interested to see if somebody,
Yeah,
Came
other
forward,
ideas,
so-
sure, there's benefits to that. It's gonna,
Yeah.
it's gonna drag it out, but yeah, there are benefits.
I'm just wondering if the art, I mean, I guess I'm thinking, does the artist think that you're
Yeah.
commissioning this piece? Will the artist become,
well, I'm gonna go about it as, this is our budget.
Mm-hmm.
How much art can we get in this space? How much length of bench?
Mm-hmm.
How many benches? How many sections can we get for this amount of money? If he gives me back the paper and it has one bench in the middle of the
Yeah.
grass, I'm gonna say thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's gonna do that because he was very positive on the phone. I can give you more length if we take down the height. So he was willing to work with me on that. So
Okay.
we'll just see how much bench we can get and go from there.
Yeah.
And when you send him this picture, the dimensions are on the bottom. It's,
Perfect.
he can just measure it out. That's the
Thank you.
scale.
Perfect. Thank you for sending. Did
I sent it to you just now. Did you get it? I think I sent it. That's kind of hard to see down to that. Is that 25 feet?
I did. Thank you.
You got it? Okay.
It's 25 and 50 feet.
25 to 50. Okay, so that's your measurement at the bottom.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so is
Sorry,
that,
I missed that.
are we on track with what you need for that?
The other questions that we'd have to answer are what does the commission want to accomplish with this project?
Seating area within the park, public art,
Yeah.
color,
Accessibility
accessibility.
to a park.
I mean, it
And
And
we
it
also,
answers all three
a
questions.
reflection space?
yeah, it's also a place where people, that have gotten their ice cream
Gathering.
can go sit, and it's extra seating.
Enjoy the
Or,
park.
yeah,
It creates a
or-
sense of community.
Or the moms can sit while their kids are running the trail.
Yeah.
Or,
I've gotten some feedback from people in the community, and one of the concerns, which I think is a very easy fix from the city, is the mosquito problem there.
Because of
In that park, the park doesn't get used very much because the mosquitoes are so
the
bad.
ivy.
Because of the ivy. But I think that's an easy fix.
I think so. It's kind of
So
like
number
us.
3,
So our number 3 goes back to Gateway, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. And that,
We're on hold with that, with the idea that we might take it to another level for a plan.
Well, and to
That's what
find
we
out
talked
what
about.
the
Yes.
Trail is doing first and
Right.
see their plan.
And then I think we're gonna ask to pay for, get money to have that park completely planned out by an architect that is
landscape
a
architect.
landscape architect that knows something about public art.
Okay.
Yeah. It's already been discussed.
I think that is a great use of some of our funds. I think that having a plan and having a vision is so important. when you start
Agreed.
doing a project. And so I do think it's important that we wait and see what the Green Crescent Trail is going to do in that space
Yeah.
before we spend money on that.
Is
Right.
there a schedule for that?
it's all dependent on grants, and
No, the Green Crescent.
they put out grants for that portion of it when they're awarded, if they're awarded. I've got a picture that.
Yeah, I was thinking they pretty much felt like it was going to happen and they would start construction in the summer.
Yeah, I was
So
thinking
that's
like
that was
July.
my- yeah, that was my impression.
We were told July, but
And that drawing that we had been given pretty much is the plan, so
Yeah.
That is the plan. Okay.
that's what they're proposing. That's
So
what
I
the money
guess
is to
on
be
number
used for.
3, we still want to leave it as part of our plan as soon as possible,
yes.
but we probably need to word it, the when question, as we're going to work on this when
The Green
the
Crescent Trail.
Green Crescent Trail plan is concrete
Right,
Is,
and in progress.
yeah, and that there'll be money allocated towards a plan for that park.
And then,
And then the
and
parks-
that will be our next step.
Mm-hmm.
The parks, in the proposed budget that would start in July, we are proposing a Parks and Rec master plan, a full master plan like was done in 2012. And we would suggest that, the Arts Commission have a say, be on the committee, come to the meetings, to have a say. And Gateway Park would be included in that master plan.
well, that's what I was just gonna
Big
say, is I feel like we need to get this to city council even before the Green Crescent Trails, so that we're part of the plan. And we don't get trumped again by the next thing that comes along. So that was my whole thing, is I thought we had gotten this to the city to say, here's what we are proposing would like to do, and we're looking for a, yes, this is going to be allowed to happen, even if it's 2 years down the line, because we have to do it in stages.
And it would-
Because I think this is big enough, this is not something that's gonna crop up in 6 months. This is not bus shelters. These are things that are gonna be in the ground. You don't wanna sink, you don't want sinkholes, it's gonna be durable and it stays, so it's not an overnight situation. But I think in us moving forward with it, we have to have a commitment that if we do all of this work,
It's
it's
gonna
not,
get done.
it's gonna get done. It's not
Right.
gonna be like, oh yeah, well, y'all were slow on that, so therefore we
Yeah.
decided to put a bandstand there.
Right, right.
So,
Well, and in our Excel spreadsheet, I believe it does say 1 to 5 years.
Exactly, it does.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
a
what I'm
big
saying, but
long-term-
again,
Yeah.
I think we need to get the commitment
Mhm.
that
Something else
that
doesn't,
it will still be ours to
Right.
use, that all of a sudden,
right.
it doesn't become the,
But I think also that's where the plan comes in, because if we go to them and get the funding, then we'll have a public art plan for that space. And then from there, we do fundraising, we get phased out, and we have a place marker for that space, and there's no question. So,
did that answer the questions on this? I'm like, so
Yeah,
I'm
did it
still, so
solve-
I'm like,
okay.
I'm just trying to guide this a little bit, because
Yeah.
I'm so confused on what it is.
okay,
I'm
so
just trying to
solving the
process.
problem, right? The
So
problem
when
is,
would the project begin? That would be,
This is a long-term
Long-term,
project,
yeah.
this is I would love to think we could be breaking ground a year from now. I don't see it happening before.
but we still need the plan.
Shovel to the ground, because
We
that's
still
what I'm
need the
saying, I think
plan.
we have to get.
so could we do it step by step?
Exactly.
What would
That's
you
what
say
I'm
your
thinking.
steps are?
So I think our step right now is to get the city council to agree to the proposal of the use of this, so that we can go forward to,
I think your first step is the Green Crescent Trail information.
well, we
Yes.
have that, she has the map.
Yep, it's right here.
Oh, did you pull it up? Yeah.
Is
That's
that,
not a very good.
Let me
you
see if I
can't
can
really
get
see
it bigger. Hang on.
is that finalized?
Yes.
That's what we've been told.
Yes.
That's where it's going.
Okay.
So really where we're
Is the
at,
next part a landscape plan?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
what I'm thinking. It's,
yes.
but I feel like we need to, before we spend the money on any kind of landscape planner, we need to get the city to agree that's an acceptable use of the park, and we
Right.
should move forward with that idea.
I think they should happen at the same
I
time.
don't know if the city can do it without a plan.
Well, we're just asking for, if we spend the money on a plan, on a professional plan, can we move forward with that plan?
Right.
If they approve it.
Right.
Yes, and it would have to meet the standards that
Right.
Nathan and Tony laid out. But you can have the architecture drawn to those standards. and then they would approve that.
Okay. Okay.
I wonder if there needs to be another conversation with Nathan and Tony about Gateway Park with all of us in our vision and understanding their perspective and them understanding ours, because what we were thinking for the use of Gateway Park is not what Nathan and others were thinking, and I want to make sure that we're clear on that for moving forward. Like we had visions of more sculptural pieces being in there, but we received feedback that fewer could be in there, and that this park was designed as a tree park, and there was a plan for that park, established a master plan a while back, which, I haven't seen that. Or
I'm
we
pulling
haven't.
that up right now.
So I think just having a conversation about what we had envisioned, what they think, and making sure we're all on the same page. I think that dialogue is important too, to come back to
Because
that.
I think we had, when they initially came to one of our meetings, it seemed like we were all on the same page. Everybody was
Yes.
pretty excited. And then when we met, it's like, oh, but no, this is all you can do because you can't do anything here because of tree roots, and you can't do that, and you can't
Right.
do this.
I
and
didn't have an
grass is
answer on the
green.
tree roots, because I wondered about that. And how they determine that is, if you're standing someone taller than me at breast level, and you take the diameter of the tree trunk, for every inch, that creates a foot of setback. So similar to if you had a house, how far away from the road. So for every inch, that's how far something has to be away so you don't damage the root
Right.
of the tree.
Yeah.
So,
And again, I think this still goes back to discussions.
Like, do we?
Because at one point I had said if we needed to put a statue there and need to take a particular tree down, and we could plant 3 other trees in the place in a different location. And we never really got clarification. It seemed like the day we met, it was like, no. And if you go with no, there's no place really to put
That's the thing about
Bunch of-
hiring a professional.
That's
Right.
exactly right.
Is that if we can take the original art plan and marry it
Exactly.
Yeah.
with something
Did
new,
you find that plan?
I'm trying to find the page it's on. It's a
it
long
could
document.
be something really beautiful
Right.
that we didn't even see coming and the city didn't even see coming.
I
and
agree.
It would be a very wise investment.
So I think the idea of hiring somebody to help us, not just us, but the city,
Yeah.
envision this, I
The
think
use
would
of
be
this
money
park.
well spent.
Yeah.
I agree.
Because to piecemeal it, it's going to be
So I
a
think,
waste of money.
so I think the question to take to city council to answer these questions is, when are we going to start this? We're going to start this when the first step of this is to have a professional come in and help us.
Yeah. Right.
And us is really the city.
City.
And
Right.
the commission.
Obviously, the way I envision it, they would interview Tony. They would, they would interview all the people involved in this project,
Right.
and then they'd come back with a really
And I
beautiful,
really
concise
think
plan.
we stay out of it
Right.
as much as possible, so the creative.
Right. We have to give them some objective
We do,
viewpoint, but yes.
I think less is more in the beginning, just
Yeah.
to see what they come up with, and then you can start to move things and change things.
Right.
So again,
Is that making
next
sense?
step
So what's our
is-
timeline for the landscape architect?
Well, that's what I'm
Ours-
asking. What's the
this
next
year.
step then? Do we?
Let's-
Yeah, I mean, I
let's
feel
hire
like that needs to happen
Right.
this year.
I say within
That
the
should-
next 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you want to move that up on the list?
Yeah, that is, but it's part of it's phase 1 of the
Of a
Gateway
long-
Park.
Like
Yeah.
a 5-year
Yeah.
Yeah,
plan.
yeah.
Okay, and then,
Because, I mean, ideally, there's always going to be projects going on simultaneously. It's not in order of bus shelters happen and this happens. I mean, hopefully, things will be happening simultaneously because we'll have budget to do that. But yes, I feel like in the next 6 months, we need a plan.
we need a plan. We also need, like what you said, a commitment
Yeah, but
from
my feelings,
city
I feel
council
like
that
we have to
nothing will
know.
be. The problem is as we're planning, then they're letting, like they're saying, oh, well, you can do this and you can do this and you can do, and so that's gonna make it impossible for us. And this is something that takes a little time to do, and now we've got the money for it. So we just need city council to just say, let's put a hold, with the exception of obviously the Green Crescent Trail, on any other commitments of that space until
Until
this
we have a
plan
plan.
gets in place and they approve it.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I guess the question I have is Parks and Rec, you said is doing a master planning process, like the overlap there and what their goals and their vision for the park is, because we don't own the park. We've said we want to do public art in that park. And so I guess I'm
Yeah.
thinking that has to be a dialogue again with the people in
The Parks and Rec
the
Advisory.
Park and
Right,
Rec
right.
folks, because
Do they have a committee?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Have you?
and that all needs to happen together while we're
Right.
talking to each other. And I guess we've said we wanted to do that, and folks on the planning staff and others were like, no, we have people that can do that. You don't need to spend that money. But I think Jennifer and Julie are making great points. Like, this is a space. Let's get people who specialize in visioning for spaces like that to parks to help us with, like, how do we bring more traffic in? Where could public art go? But protect the environment, the living environment there. But then I also wonder what the Parks and Rec folks are thinking about, like their consultants that they're bringing in. Could this all come in together, be cheaper? Like if we brought multiple.
Altogether. So the master plan, it will go out and do all the surveys and do the interviews with the citizens and take their feedback and put it into what the community wants. And they would do that for each park, identify, a restroom's needed here, or more benches are needed here. Broad spectrum, and Gateway Park would be included in that. And we would make sure that you all had a voice when that's happening.
Well, yeah, I mean,
But with
okay,
that,
it's a little different from the general public giving feedback and the commission giving feedback. And so I think we need to be pretty high up on the decision-making level on this thing with the Gateway Park. Either we're in or we're out on this.
Yeah, that's, I guess, we've presented to the city council that this is a place we want held for public art, and they were supportive
excited.
of that.
They were very
So,
excited.
like, how does all that come
So
together?
if that's what you want to do, then I would recommend, for this next meeting, if we're able to get this finished by the time to have it on the 21st agenda, we could present our 5 plans. And the next one, if this is your top priority, have on there that you want to do, and you need to use the funds to do an architectural plan, an RFQ, for that space. And then that's how you would move forward with that. You would give them the recommendation to.
I still think Parks and Rec, there's gotta be some communication both, because in the end, they can't come back with a master plan and say, well, everything I've done, we're not doing.
Right,
Right.
because in our,
They're gonna
because in
override.
our back room, we had a meeting and we're doing a swim pond there. That's like, well, we didn't know, that's where I was saying, which is what happened to us. We thought we were all on the same page, and then apparently we were not on the same page.
Yeah.
So I
And
guess
that's what
helping
got
us
us here.
navigate through that, and we're charged with putting art in publicly
Public
owned spaces. If our hands get tied at every turn about what we can do, we cannot do what
We're asked to
what
do.
we've been
Yeah.
asked to do. And
Yeah.
we think Gateway Park could become a really special place where people would go and visit and spend time there and walk around and create something like in Malden where the sculptures would rotate out and it would be affordable and it would be something new. It wouldn't be the same thing staying there, that there would be like, you know, a rotating program
Right.
in there. But
Yeah.
we think
But we have to commit that.
Parks and Rec has to be on board with that too, it sounds like.
Can I add this too, is that this is why you've got to really fight for us, because this is the one last place that we really have to show that we are engaged in public art in the city, because we don't have a lot of like walking space. You know, it's not like we have these big greenways, you know. That is about it for a greenway. So if we lose that, it seems to be like not
Really part of the city's plan.
right. Yeah.
They're not.
And I think there can be a good marriage with the Crescent Trail.
Yes.
That's gonna
Oh,
be-
it's perfect.
Right.
Yeah. And the Green Crescent people are all about it. I mean, they know.
Well, and as long as the parking issues are what they are at the university, every visitor that comes to tour campus parks at that park. They
Yeah.
park at the church, so what better thing to have them look at when they arrive, you know, to start their tour of Clemson is the city of Clemson's art sculpture garden, or whatever
Yeah.
it turns out to be. I mean, because they're green.
Sorry.
So, I think it's just a win all the way around, and location is key because it's in the center of town. And for us that have been here a long time, this is something we've been working on for years.
Right.
It's like, and it keeps getting pushed off because it does take time.
Well,
This is
and-
not a fast bus stop thing.
Yeah.
This is not but we're not really ready to quit on
And
that.
also, I mean, we've been around for a while, but this is the first time everything is kind of coming together. It's like a really great convergence. We've got money now, we have, you know, so that's why we're at this juncture. I think this is a critical point. If we don't like make something happen over there, I question whether the commission has a lot of purpose.
Yeah.
And the last I heard from Nathan, he said that he recommended that the pad locations be selected prior to the Green Crescent Trail connector being installed to minimize cost. And we could add that into addition for the planned project if the grant application is awarded.
That's because he's talking about pouring concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, that's back to them thinking there's only going to be 2 pads.
I think they said 4.
4.
I think is what he said.
Yeah.
That's all he said on that.
I think our number 4 is the garden shed.
You know what? And I just realized on my calendar, I think it was supposed to be brought up at council last night. Do you know if it did get brought up?
No, because the plan has to be brought up first.
Okay.
Nothing can be brought up until this plan is got back to them.
Okay.
Now, the garden shed wasn't originally on our sheet.
Yeah.
It wasn't identified. It was something that a community member brought to us. It was on
Yeah.
private land, but it's a public shed.
Yeah.
But it's on the trail.
But that was something that, Mia was supposed to work with a high school
The
Yeah.
art teacher. Yeah.
art teacher.
Yes.
So what's our next step there
Maybe get
that we
back to
can
Mia
give to Ally?
before the next meeting.
I think she said the art teacher was on board, wasn't it? It was just a matter of. I really thought we had to go. I thought we were ready to take it to the commission to say, can we use this money? Will you accept this, and we can move forward with it? Is that not where we were at?
For this plan, they wanted it in January, from my understanding. So when I asked Amy about it, he said that this plan, council requested this 5-step priority and timeline. So that's what we need to take to them first. And once we take them that, then we continue on. I think it was, might have been the meeting after you presented, and then Joan presented it for approval. That's when they asked for the timeline and priorities.
Why am I not?
I don't know.
I don't
I'm
remember
confused. I'm just
knowing any of that.
So where does that leave that? Not anywhere? We're just letting the shed sit there?
It can be at the next one after you present this plan.
If it's part of our plan, we just
Yeah.
have to present it the 21st.
I gotcha. And
And
it
then,
was.
and then we keep moving forward with it.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
just don't want to we don't wanna pick somebody to paint on it without it getting through the 21st meeting, and I'm pretty sure they're gonna be fine with it.
Okay.
So
I
they
am
would
not
just move
here on the
forward.
21st.
Okay.
I'll need someone else
That's
to
good.
represent us. I'm not in town.
Who's
That's
our
the only
vice
wedding.
chair?
We don't have one.
Yeah.
This is, yeah.
Okay.
So,
We had,
The next meeting after the 21st is April the 4th.
March
March
21st.
21st, doing 2nd and 23rd, Pickens County schools are closed.
Okay, so a lot of y'all aren't gonna be here.
I won't be.
Yeah.
and you said April the 4th.
April 4th.
I'm not here for that. I'm going to Europe. It's unless we go to war. Which I will not be here for April's meeting at all. Sign conflict. Can you be at the 21st?
Yeah.
Or
even
you-
though
or
it's
the
just-
two of you
yeah,
together?
Yeah.
I can
Okay,
be there
yeah,
at the
these two.
21st. I
Okay.
can be there at the 21st.
Okay, that would be great.
I can,
We'll all be there.
Clemson Community Care was on our original list.
I think it got removed for now because of setback issues. In looking at what they have there, I'm not sure there's enough land to do.
March 31st.
Okay.
Oh, Bob's out, but I'm
Okay.
attending.
And we just
And
haven't
then-
had a champion for that yet
Right,
to move forward like we have for the other projects. So.
yeah,
And we picked up the garden shed.
right.
So,
Yeah.
I would rather
Yeah.
focus on Gateway
me too.
over Clemson Community Care, only because Gateway is more visible to them. Not as many people use that one section of
So the
76
garden
as
shed's
they do.
We would be
Yeah.
starting from like ground zero with that, and we have some momentum.
Then what will be our answers to the questions for it?
It was requested,
It was a, yeah.
it was a community request,
Okay.
and it would bring, you know, beauty to, again, a
would be
public
paint.
space. It's,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm getting a little bit confused, like, back to what Meredith said. I think we should stick to the things that were in the plan and address those.
They've all been changed
They all
since our workshop.
Yeah.
As I'm reading them, Shinklin Sam's is on here.
We had the
We have
garbage,
the side,
Garbage cans are no longer.
well, they're now bus shelters, so they're really, that's
Same
still there.
location.
Catherine Smith Park was a 2-year plan. Clemson Community Care was 1 year. That's a setback issue. Nettles Park was our 1-year plan. That already has a big plan for
They
it.
have the.
The Entourage side
private
building
property.
is private property, so we're not allowed to recommend for a mural be there. So everything from our workshop has,
With the exception of the, and also,
Gateway was
yeah.
within a 5-year plan.
yeah.
We've got an area in front of the TDs and Subway. Do you know
It was the
anything about
wall. No, that was, somebody had just mentioned that wall on the patio in front of TVs, that wall that is, I'm not sure that's something we can tackle right now. I'm not even sure.
Right.
The city, I think,
Yeah,
owns
I'll
that
check on
wall.
That was
I don't know if
I
that's
think
an
that's-
idea or not.
Going back to our summer workshop.
Yeah,
that
when we were
will
at- which was
cycle back.
2
Yeah.
years ago, or year, we haven't had another workshop. That was
Right.
a workshop from,
Last year.
Well, maybe we should just say what the situation is on all of the things that were
Yeah.
on our plan.
yep.
We know what our top ones are.
We have
And then I
action
think
items.
there should be a separate, something that said, these are requests from the community that have come before us, that whether or not we're in support of them, because they're not really part of our plan. They're just, the woman came, and I'm sorry, I forget her name.
But she asked us to take it on, and we said yes. So then it
Okay.
became part of our plan, and you presented it, didn't you, when you
did, the
talked?
garden shed.
Yeah, she
Okay,
presented
so
it,
then
she
it
had
is part of
slides and
our- okay.
everything.
Yeah, it's
We-
number
we-
5 on the
okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
then I'm mistaken on
Yeah.
that, I
Yeah.
apologize.
Yeah. It's, yeah, I've got my little highlights here.
Do we have to have 5 things?
You know, I don't think so. Just,
We're done. Four.
yeah.
Yeah, let's do 4 right now
Yeah.
until we can have maybe another workshop with.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna
Max.
say. I think there needs to be a workshop plan.
Yeah.
And I think it's gonna need to be on a weekend day, because we all have jobs, not all of us, but we have jobs. And I think we start thinking about it. Like
Well, our
when.
annual plan was in May, wasn't it, last year? So we're due for it.
So I don't know what everybody's schedules are looking like, but I would propose that we be looking at a workshop day on a Saturday. I think it's better than a Sunday, to be honest.
Yes, very open to that.
Yeah.
So what are the 4 projects? In
So
order?
the 4 projects are the bus shelters, the Sam Shanklin Park, is that right?
Yeah.
The Gateway Park, and the garden shed.
And I think it's important to say you did see us present, or did see you present the Clemson Community Care and the trash cans. This is after further looking into these 2 areas and doing research. Those and we didn't present crosswalks, did we?
We talked about, I
We
think
did.
I can go back and look at that meeting. I think I
it's-
mentioned it.
We
but-
can say we had more, but now we know more information. Yeah.
Or you still need more to proceed with this.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't proceed.
Yeah.
Based
all
on the
of
current
us.
information, you can't proceed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. So I think that's kind of where we are on that, correct? Okay.
Do you have the information you need, Ally? Are we?
I mean, it would be helpful if maybe if we split it off, each one did a, you know, why is this important, what issues it would have, so that put in the report, unless you want us to do that. It's up to you.
I think we need to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would take since bus
Are you-
wrap is my new
Are you
project,
talking
I will
about
take that one.
presenting?
No, you all will present.
Right.
If you want our help compiling the document, or if one of you all want to volunteer to compile the document, but I think it would be best if you all did the write-up on why it's important.
Right.
For each one of
For
those
each-
4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
our responsibility.
I'll
So-
do Shanklin's.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll do bus wraps.
I can, or you or I can, either one of us can do
I'm not a writer.
Gateway.
I'll do.
Yeah.
And that's just answering those questions.
And then can
Will
you
you
fill
send
in the
those out?
blank?
I will.
Okay.
Can you fill in the blank on the garden shed one? Because I think we just kind of answered that one. That's pretty simple. It's paint.
Yeah. So it would be beauty to the,
Well, it was proposed by a resident, and it was beautifying the public park. It's paint
On
on
the
the
trail.
shed. It's on the Crescent Trail. The Crescent Trail will be coming through there. It's in a high visible location
and the timeline would be to get started immediately.
immediately.
Right.
And do you have a budget on that?
We did.
Yeah.
That's funny because I thought it was.
I thought it was
the
like
minutes, but it-
$500 plus
I thought it was
$100 we were going to give like to
Right.
the student who.
Yeah, $500 for
Designed
paint
it.
supplies, and
Okay.
then $100 stipend for the artist. Plus the certificates and everything. And a photo opportunity.
Yes.
No.
And a gold
Key to the
Do
city.
you, do you think we should go up $100 on the stipend for the artist? To
For the
paint
student?
whole shed?
Well, if it's several students,
True.
I was thinking that it was like going to be a art class.
Well, how about doing like a pizza
So-
party or something where you have a group?
I would say the faculty member or the teacher would choose.
Yeah.
Or donate to this.
Donate to the school.
So
to
do
the
you
art
think we need
program.
more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
donation
Do we
to the
need to
art program.
allocate more money towards it, I think is the question.
I don't know. What do you all think? What would?
I'm open to
Yeah. What was your thinking?
If it's a class, no,
Yeah.
because it's not that much work. Many hands make light work. But if it's one student's part that we're picking, or someone's picking, then
Well, let's find out from Mia maybe what she
Okay.
said.
Yeah.
this one's Mia's
This is
project.
Mia's
She's working
project.
on-
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe she has some ideas after talking to her about what would work best for that.
So
And it could
let's
be that it's one
say
student's design,
under
but one
the
student's
project will be under. It'll be $800 or under.
You could say 1,000.
Is it okay?
We need every penny.
Yeah.
That's true.
Now, from the city viewpoint, is it okay to get a stipend?
What now?
is it okay to give a stipend? Yes, we have done stipends for artists before.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, like on the
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Just-
Yeah.
meters,
Okay.
we did.
Okay. All right. What's next? Any?
New business?
I want to make sure I understand what you asked for.
Right.
You're gonna send out the questions,
I will.
and we have 4 projects, and we need to give you answers why they're important, the difference it will make, whatever our response is, and an amount, like a budgeted
Correct.
amount. Okay.
Yeah.
And
So the,
on March 21st,
I'll put it on the agenda.
and we're gonna just give like the update to our plan and answer the questions in
You'll
the
just say
press.
as requested, and I can give you the date of when they requested it.
Okay,
We're giving our report on the timeline and progress of these projects.
okay.
Can you send us all a reminder about the city council meeting?
I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
then we're moving on to new business. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, no, that's fine.
How brief do you want this to be, this
It's-
presentation?
It needs to be quick.
Like a
'cause I keep
one-page
getting
post-
people going, you took too long. The last
Yeah.
one, I think I took too
Yeah,
long.
just,
It's gotta be
just
brief.
make sure you.
Yeah. Our
Yeah,
last
I'll-
presentation was 22 minutes.
Yeah, just a one-page
So,
PowerPoint that has
again-
bullets, and we just go through the 4 projects and the end of it. Okay,
And many people said I took too long, so.
okay, that
Make
was
it
it.
brief, get the point across, but,
They don't have to ask questions.
yeah, and they will ask questions, yeah, hopefully. Okay, now on to new business?
I'm sorry.
Any new business?
This is, I'm going to say it's new business.
Yeah.
It's new info to us. We had somebody apply for the Clemson University position that Eric Lappin had to step away from.
Yeah,
And that went through December 7th to a city email to Beverly. And in January, it was said that no one had applied for any positions. So I went back to the person that I knew had put in the position for that. And she forwarded me the email, which I forwarded to you and you
Okay.
tonight. So,
So I will make sure Beverly gets it.
yeah.
Okay, so that was gonna be my new business too, is where are we at on applications for the commission?
So they're gonna update the ordinance to, as Joe mentioned last time, to include a member of CAM and Joe,
Oh,
is it
had that already.
the Arts? Friends of the Arts Center and CAM. And then positions that were up were Julie and Susan. But if you all would like to stay on until May, that's when the ordinance would be adopted. So it has to go through 3 different meetings of being talked about, a first reading and a second reading before it would go into effect.
Okay, I guess my question was applications, it wasn't necessarily the position, have we received applications other than the lost one?
Not that I've heard, not from Beverly.
what, and also, I would like clarity. I mean, I know why I'm going, I mean, I've been on forever. But you need to very clearly establish in writing who's got what positions.
position.
Because something's very screwy about who's on and who's off and
And
all that.
Beverly will have that all in the minutes.
Yeah,
And I'll get that.
and once we get, and we should have that in the minutes and in the writing of the bylaws too, to state once again very clearly who those positions are and how long those terms are. Because I think at one point we had different term lengths even for some of those positions.
I know when it first started,
Yeah.
it was staggered so that everyone wouldn't be rolling off and rolling
Right.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can get that established from Beverly and I'll send it.
Yeah, because it's kind of gotten out of control.
All right,
So would you all like to stay on until May or until we have some clarity?
Well, if I left today, no one would be, well,
Yeah.
who could speak at the city council. I get there's really no one to do
And
that.
that was- that's
I have a
what-
technical question. If, reading the ordinance, I understand too, 2 3-year terms, you can't serve more than that. When would the end of my term count as when I concluded for a year, or would it start would it start at a year and go a whole nother year, because then we would be into another term?
Yes.
So I guess my request would be that my official ending ended when my term ended, and I'm doing like
A favor to staff.
extra, special service that I could apply again if I wanted to, when the next term opens up for residents.
Right.
That would be counted as my year break. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Okay.
And how many spots of just, see, this is the thing, we are not even clear on how many people here are considered just community members. So how many of those spots would be open?
I'll pull up the
And
ordinance
I
as it
couldn't
reads
find
today.
that where we had how many spots for residents. Like, there were 3 different places,
I thought-
and then I printed
yeah.
out the whole public art plan
Right.
to try to find it there.
It's in the I think it's in the bylaws. Let me see.
Okay, and I went online, trying to figure it out too.
And you can find it in our municipal code. So if you go to the City of Clemson Code of Ordinances, and then you go to City Ordinance, I'm gonna pull it up for us now.
Yeah, because we've never had this many people come off, and so we just need to make sure it's clear who's doing what. Let's see if I can find it.
And Allie, do you have access to our new folder?
I do not.
Okay,
I can work.
okay. Because that was something that, just as we're adding documents, like one place where all of this is being deposited, everything that you emailed could go into that.
Do you all own that, or who
It was set up for us.
set up through the city?
Yeah, through the city.
Okay, perfect.
And it's a folder that we all have access to through Gmail.
Shared drive, yeah.
Yeah.
So how it reads currently is the Public Arts and Culture Commission shall consist of 7 voting members. Appointments to the commission shall include, but not be limited to, specific representation of one in-town business owner, one member who represents Friends of the Arts Center Board, one resident who is a visual or performing artist, and one member from the arts faculty and or Brooks Center at Clemson University. The other 3 members shall be local residents from the Clemson community at large.
That's what I thought.
And having, because there's only so many people in the art center, in the art department,
Yeah,
sorry.
right,
I think what we had talked about prior to the deadline was if we just had a Clemson University representative, with the idea that they represented something in the nature of humanities,
Art,
culture,
humanities,
art,
architecture.
architecture.
And that's what we mentioned in rewriting of the ordinance,
Oh, good.
is to include,
You are on top of it.
can you fill me in, Joan? It was,
humanity, it was that humanities, architecture, visual arts,
Performing arts, then you can just say performing arts.
So we're adding CAM, is that
Yes.
right? So that's an 8th member?
um,
That's where I got
Yeah, you can
confused, because I
say
felt like we
7.
went to 9. We all of a sudden went to 9 members, is that right?
when we discussed it, it was staying at 7, it was just being redistributed, correct?
Yeah, we had
Right.
7, then we had 9, it
3
bounced
residents.
around a little bit, and that's
Because it's,
I'm a resident.
but it's 3 residents.
Okay.
Your business.
So
I
can
know
you,
your business.
can you state for the record, so this will be included in our minutes, who represents in this group right now what thing? What
I
That's
know
what
I'm,
they don't know.
I'm a Clemson
They're still
resident. I know that. I know that she is business. That's what she came in to be.
Okay.
She could
I
be
could have been
artist.
artist.
Right.
We don't have an artist.
Well,
But
let's
see, I
start with,
don't know that she should have come in as business, because I was
Right.
brought in as business.
Oh.
So I was real estate.
yes.
I was
Oh.
brought in as the business person.
See, this is the problem.
So that's where I'm saying it.
And we can get, Beverly will have all this
Yeah.
from
But don't we want to state for the record what everybody in this council thinks they are?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay,
Clemson resident.
so you weren't part of Clemson. I thought
No,
you were
because
saying-
Eric Lappin was brought on.
Got it.
Yeah.
To replace Valerie.
Okay.
Yeah. What did you think
And
you
your
were?
business.
I thought I was
Business.
Okay. And I thought, I mean, I was, I guess, a community member at large.
And I
Yeah.
thought I came on as a business. Because I came before I ever worked for the university and everything, and I was business.
I've always thought I'm a resident representative.
Yeah. And then Bob, you're,
Friends with him.
yeah.
Okay,
Me
so
and
as a
Pam.
friend of the Art Center, and me as
Now,
Pam.
what was our vice president?
So, yeah, I don't know what Baker was.
Yeah,
I would say
Baker.
artist. Isn't he in
Yeah, I think
architecture?
Yeah.
we stretched it for Baker as artist since he's an architecture student.
Right.
Okay, didn't know that.
And then what would be?
She's the camera,
Yeah.
but
That's what everyone thinks they are.
but I'm like, but there's still
I know.
somebody, I'm missing somebody, I'm like, who are we missing? I don't know.
But
Well,
once you
yeah.
come
Oh,
in as
but
something,
what happened to
that's what
Lindsay?
you are.
So
You
is
can't change
Lindsay
around.
replaced by,
She's no longer at Bob replaced her.
okay, gotcha, okay.
Perfect. Now we have it all figured out.
And Bob, you can finish your term, and that doesn't go towards a new term. I did read that.
Oh, right,
Yeah. I mean, he could be on
He
it
can
for
start
You
for
could
two, he
finish
could start,
Lindsay's
yeah.
term.
Oh,
Yeah.
And
He
then,
could
Yeah.
get 2 more terms. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Okay, any other new business to discuss? All right, then I will adjourn the meeting. Oh, there was no public call-in or anything, right? Okay, thank you. Then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will not, sorry, I said it earlier, but I will not be here in April.